Thank y'all for coming. We're going to get started. Appreciate you.
You may or may not have heard about PFAS, but it's something you need to know about. PFAS are chemicals that are toxic in humans and animals, and they don't break down in the water in humans or animals. But what's dangerous is that they accumulate over time. Here's waterkeeper Bob Bocock, one of the nation's best experts on water and pollution, to explain how that happens.
3M, the giant chemical corporation, sold PFAS to our local carpet companies. And they used these chemicals in carpet fibers, and then they released the leftover chemicals into the sewer system. The PFAS then ends up in our drinking water and our irrigation water. And when we drink water or eat crops from land with PFAS in it, it begins a second cycle. It accumulates in our bodies. It goes into the waste stream, the wastewater treatment plant, which creates biosolids. And then those biosolids get put back onto our land in the form of fertilizer. That's fine unless the PFAS gets in there. Every cycle, the PFAS accumulate and accumulate and accumulate because they are so slow to degrade.
Much of the land here has been in families for generations and should be for generations to come. Kids play in the fields, fish in the streams and ponds. We want to make sure it's safe for them to do so now and for years into the future. You need to protect the value of your property and of your future.
With the Finley firm, we recently for this project. All of you are here tonight to educate yourselves, and some of you may even be potential clients. A few housekeeping matters, guys. The women's restroom is over here to my right, which would be your left, and the men's restroom is over here to my left, which would be your right. All of you, as you walked in, you should have received a folder with the name PFAS Georgia on the front. Okay, there's a lot of information in there. Just so happens to be at least one good-looking guy on the front, at least I think so. But there's a lot of information in there about health-related issues, about the chemical itself, and how it got here from one of the largest corporations in the world that's based in Minnesota. Okay, there's also a contingency fee contract, which this guy Ben Finley will go over in just a bit. But importantly, most of you received as you walked in is this here question card. Okay, we've been collecting questions over the past few weeks on social media, and we have been inundated with them. If every single one of you were to raise your hand and ask a question tonight, we may be here for a long time. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this question card. You're going to fill it out. Raise your hand. One of these great people in a PFAS Georgia t-shirt will come by and they'll get that from you. I feel like we're in church right now. You know, I was always the kid who in the back of the pew when there was stuff, information, I'd be flipping through it and my grandmother would pinch me to stop, right? But that's what this is. You guys hold it up. We'll get it to you. We may not get to all of your questions tonight, but I promise you we will answer every single one of your questions. Put your contact information on there. We have an entire team who next week, their sole job is going to be to call through these questions and to give each and every one of you a call and answer your questions because that's what you deserve. This is not a fun place to be. I know that. I try to be lighthearted. That's just how I am as a person. But this is a very, very serious matter. And so we know you have a lot of questions, and we want to make sure every single one of them is answered. So I am not the star of the show tonight. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm not Aaron Brockovich, okay? Nor am I Julia Roberts, but that's a different story too. But I'm here to introduce the next speaker, and his name is Ben Finley. Ben has been an attorney in Georgia for 33 years. He's a fifth-generation Georgian. He is one of truly the best attorneys in the state of Georgia. He is probably the only attorney in the state of Georgia who prosecutes cases for plaintiffs, like potentially every single one of you, who defends large corporations. He actually represents the largest corporation in the state of Georgia, which is the state of Georgia. We regularly defend cases for the Georgia Department of Transportation at some of the highest levels across the state, and that's someone that touches every single one of you in this room. Every road that we drive on every single day, he is the main guy that they turn to, okay? But he's also a mediator, which I think is something unique to him that provides a little bit of a different perspective. And what a mediator is, he's a neutral. So he stands between plaintiffs and between defendants, between victims, and between large corporations like 3M, and he comes to a resolution with the parties. He helps broker that deal. A few months ago, he actually brokered and settled a case that was the second largest pretrial settlement for a single death in Georgia history as the mediator. He's just that type of person. I've known him my entire life since I was born. Ben and my dad were roommates together at the University of Georgia. So I'm an Auburn man. Y'all don't order to get me. But I went to more Georgia games than anything growing up because of this guy right here. And what I want to tell you a little bit about is the person that I know, because I know every single one of you are wondering, who are these people out of town? We're not from here. I grew up in Columbus, you know. We don't pretend to be from here, but we're going to get to know every single one of you, and we're not going anywhere. We're here for the long haul. So you deserve to know the man that I know because he cares. And he demonstrated that over the course of his entire life and over the course of my life. In 2002, my grandfather, who played football at the University of Alabama for Bear Bryant, he was on Kenny Stabler and Joe Namath's lines, and he was a big man, 6'3", 280 pounds. He died suddenly of a heart attack, 57 years old. And a few years later, a pill was on the market. A lot of buzz started to come out about it, about how bad it was and all the horrible things. Pill was called Vioxx. Many of you probably heard about it. Ben went across the state of Georgia doing town halls just like this, went across the state of Alabama. And my grandmother happened to be at one of those town halls. And she went home that night. My grandfather was a high school football coach, so he kept a gym bag. She looked in his gym bag, and she found a bottle of Vioxx. One pill took a giant of a man down. And he has been there for my family every single step of the way since. He's genuine. He's real. He's one of the best people I know. So I'm happy to introduce to you all my law partner and one of my best friends, Ben Finley.
Thank you. I get kind of emotional when Nick speaks because he's like my child. I have known him since he was born, and his dad and I lived together at the University of Georgia. I can tell you it is an honor. It is an honor and a privilege. It is the pinnacle of my life to be able to, and professionally, to stand before you all today. It is, you know, they used to say there's nothing better than they would call it a dog on Saturday night after winning a football game. But I got to tell you, there's nothing prettier than Chatsworth, Georgia on a Friday night. I look at that view out there, and I see how pretty this is, but God didn't make this building, man did, but God made, right? Right? You with me? I've always had a strong faith. I've always had a very strong faith that came from my family, my grandmother in particular. And I have always understood, I feel like, a sense of fairness with people. It's something that sort of guided my life. My father was a lawyer in Columbus who died. He was 46 years old, and I was in kindergarten. And I understand empathy and loss, and I understand when folks are hurting. And I can tell you from the perspective of a child, I also saw my mother, who went back to work at Kirvin's department store in 1972 and was paid $100 a week and was paid less than a male who had the same job. And I watched my mother instill in me what I thought is the most important thing in this world for so many of us, and that's dignity. Dignity in terms of people being paid the same for what they do. Dignity when it comes to clean air. And President Trump recently said, water, right? Thank you. Regardless of political affiliation, though, I can tell you that no one ever asked for dirty water or dirty air, right? Now, let's think about this for a minute. If you have a strong faith, the very first sentence in the Bible is Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. And it says that the Lord God made the heavens and the earth, right? God made this, right? You look at how many, if you look at generations that have been here, and I'm fifth generation Georgian, and you think about here, outside of here, the Bible starts the first sentence with God made the heavens and the earth. And this is sort of how I look at it. If you read Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22, it says specifically that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Now, what does that mean? That means that we are to leave things to our children's children, our grandchildren. That's their inheritance because our parents and our grandparents left it to us. Now, when this was all Indian territory, and this was the Muskogee Nation, and folks came over here, and we had clean air and we had clean water, and it continued with clean air and clean water. But a company like 3M out of Minnesota, who put corporate greed and profit over human lives and safety, put us in the position that we're in, okay? 3M out of Minnesota created this problem, and they are the ones that started the fire. Let there be no mistake about that. And with rail cars, they would bring it into these communities in Northwest Georgia, and they would pollute this area, and they would do it in a way where they knew what they were doing, and they knew it was corrupt, problematic, and they knew they were damaging property, individuals, and business owners throughout this area. I have practiced law, as Nick said, in the state of Georgia for 33 years, and I went to the University of Georgia Law School. I was president of my law school class. Republican Attorney General Mike Bowers appointed me to be a special assistant attorney general in the early 90s, and I have handled matters for the state of Georgia on a very high level. But I can tell you this, there's no way that we could bring a claim against 3M, a Fortune 500 company, by ourselves. So what we did and what I did, went out and got the best lawyers and the best experts and the best folks that you could possibly put together to bring this case. Our team includes lawyers who handled the California wildfires that y'all saw on TV. Our team of lawyers handled the Hawaii wildfires. Our team of lawyers handled the Ohio train derailment. There are very few lawyers and firms in the United States that have the legal acumen, the wherewithal, and the resources to take on 3M, but we do. And we're doing it for y'all. We're doing it for Northwest Georgia because I'm a Georgian, you all are Georgians, and it is what we are called to do. I think that in terms of my faith, one of the quotes, the best quote I think I've ever seen, said, when we see the world as a gift from God, we will do our best to take care of it and use it wisely. Now, isn't that something? Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Did you see that? That is exactly what we're talking about. If you take anything away from the message tonight or what I've told you, don't forget what Billy Graham said. He said it years ago. But this has been around since the beginning of time. You can look in Genesis, it talks about how the earth was made. You can read in Revelations, and it says, and if you corrupt my earth, it won't end well for you. I'm 58 years old. I've got my 40th high school reunion coming up next month. I can't believe I'm standing up in front of y'all that I'm this old. I don't mean to see other people can relate, right? My children are both in law school. My daughter just got out of UGA, and she wants to do environmental law because the inspiration for her is Aaron Brockovich. And Aaron Brockovich didn't go to law school, and she's not a water expert, but Aaron Brockovich proved that that spirit inside you, there is nothing that can stop you. Nothing. Right? And she's proof positive. She's a living example of what I'm talking about, right? So I want to, as we move forward, what we really want to do tonight is create awareness, education, and information can be anywhere else in the United States or anywhere else in the world. And on Friday night, she's in Chatsworth, Georgia, and she's going to come speak to you from the heart, and she's going to tell you exactly how we can help. Now, our team, and I'll tell you as we move forward,
And what we'll talk about is the crisis and fighting back together. We're going to go through each of these segments. Erin's going to talk about fighting back together, and our expert, Bob Bocock, right behind her, who is the top water expert in our view in America, who testified before Congress about the PFAS problem, and a bit later. But our team includes this. Me, Erin Brockovich, and Bob are your speakers tonight. Erin, as Nick said, needs no introduction. I definitely need an introduction for y'all know who I am. But I am as Georgian can get, and I am here, obviously, to help in any way that we can. Our office is at 517 Benjamin Way here in Dalton. I mean, outside of Chatsworth, but in Dalton. Y'all come see us anytime. Check out our website, pfasgeorgia.com. Call our phone number. You've got a packet there. But we're here, and we're not going anywhere. And I want to be real clear about that. There's been misinformation about that. We will go to the last dog dies. I'm 58 years old, and I will work this until I quit practicing law, die, or something happens to me in the meanwhile. We are completely dedicated to this cause, and all of it show that this is a problem will result in issues for our generations to come that we can never turn back. With regard to me, I mean, that's enough about me. I kind of told you what I've done. We've done well over the years litigating cases in the state of Georgia and in Northwest Georgia in particular. Nick Jackson, who you heard from, he's the sharpest, I think, youngest lawyer in the state, and he's a lot better looking than me. He's a lot more photogenic. You need to talk to him. Jason Itkin out of Texas is one of our teammates in this. He has litigated the largest cases in the country, and it is a lawyer of that caliber that can help provide us the resources to take on the industries that we're going to take on, because I can promise you they got a blank check and they can hire the biggest law firms in America to defend them, and they have. And this is part of our team. So our team members, and everybody's local here, and you'll see them around. If y'all look around in blue shirts, everybody wave over here on the side, right? In the back, and along here. If you have any questions, you'll see them with a PFAS shirt on, PFAS Georgia. But these are our team, and that's our office. Y'all come by and see us anytime you want. We're going to try to, again, cover as much as we can. But look, some issues you may have are certainly private, about your medical condition, about your property, about your business, and you may want to talk about those things privately. But in the meanwhile, if you will fill out the cards that we have provided and put questions down, we're going to cover as much as we can, and we're going to stick around for anybody that has questions. And we won't leave until you all have left. We will stay as long as anybody wants to stay and anybody has a question on a personal level. And that's what we owe everybody in terms of the information and the help that we want to give. So the crisis in Northwest Georgia, this is kind of where we are, and this is what happened. 3M out of Minnesota, as I mentioned, is a Fortune 500 company. What they did is they've got this chemical called PFAS, and rather than get into all the science of it, it's basically the forever chemicals, okay? And it gets into frying pans, or it's in microwave popcorn bags. It's in all kinds of products that we all use daily. They don't have to use PFAS. You don't have to use it anymore, but they still do because they make a lot of money from it. So they get it. It comes from China, comes from 3M in Minnesota. They bring it in by rail car, and they bring it to Northwest Georgia. And they take it in the industries here, and it runs through those industries, and it comes through the chain, and it ends up going into our water supply, right? To a utility, waterworks, and then it goes to your house, ultimately, okay? So you may bathe in this water. You may, make your coffee in the morning with it. All of those things are part and parcel of how we get affected and how it comes into contact. So it's a toxic chemical, and rather than get into PFAS in terms of the acronym and all of the things go with it, I always just focus on it as a toxic chemical exposure. Toxic chemical exposure, right? That's all it is. It's toxic. Think about that for a minute. Toxicity, toxic, okay? Here's the deal with human beings, and Bob will give you more of an explanation. But we evaluate these things in terms of parts per trillion, in terms of the toxicity and the human body not being allowed to have PFAS in it. And if you've got something that's 4 parts per trillion or more, that's a problem. That's a big problem. Well, Ben, how does that help me with that? All right, I'll help you with this. If you filled up your bathtub with sand up to the top, and you took out 4 grains of sand, that's 4 parts per trillion, right? That's not that much. We found things where it's hundreds of parts per trillion, 600 parts per trillion, 500 parts per trillion. That should not be in the human body, right? That is going to result in a predominance of cancers. It's going to result in a predominance of, obviously, reductions in property values. It's going to hurt businesses that may be in various industry. If you're an organic farmer and you lose your organic designation, all of those things and all of those different people, businesses that I just mentioned are harmfully affected and damaged by PFAS. Now, the key to this is that we work together. We all work together, right? Because there's a race here. There's a race to get this out of our environment. And it will only be won by the human race. That's it, right? Man created this problem. The Lord has told us clearly about this, but we can fix it. But we got to work together. The key is when you leave here, call your friends, call your neighbors, tell everybody about this problem, and let's all work. Because the only thing that's ever changed this world in any way is when folks pull together, right? That's exactly right. When people work together, they can do anything, right? And I don't care what your situation may be in life. I've never talked to anybody that's ever said, I want unclean water and I want the air to be unclean. I've never talked to a human being that hadn't said, man, we do need clean water. We do need clean air, right? So no one can be against us. So let me just show you this. I'm going to blow through this fairly quickly, but I want y'all to understand the magnitude, the gravity, and the frequency of how this is accelerating on a national level, on a local level, in the media. They know it. So here, Georgians may be exposed to forever chemicals in water. This is March 26, 2024. More than 1 million Georgians may have been exposed to forever chemicals, and I would suggest there's a higher concentration in northwest Georgia than in other parts of the state. Clayton County had 500% over the EPA's minimum reporting levels. Here, from Atlanta News First, lawsuit in northwest Georgia over toxin drinking water. Calhoun, Georgia, right down the road, and this one, resolving a federal lawsuit against the city alleging violations of federal law and PFAS. May 24, USA Today, national paper, right? USA Today, 300 of America's public drinking water systems exceeded newly established annual guidelines, including Augusta, Georgia. Atlanta First News, a lawsuit was filed against the city of Calhoun claiming it contained contaminated drinking water. The city allowed industrial wastewater from carpet manufacturers regarding PFAS in the Calhoun sewage treatment plant. Lawsuit against Calhoun, again, in the Catoosa. Another article, Grady News Source, Water Resource Management Specialist for UGA. Another article, federal lawsuit, targets Georgia City over water pollution. Calhoun, again, the city of Calhoun. Y'all may have read about this. Another article, research involving the 11 water systems out of 52 tested so far reported contamination, including Clayton County, Austell, and Covington. You can kind of get a flavor of this, and I'm just giving you guys a snapshot. We could be here the rest of the night with articles about this, and you watch the news tonight and see if you don't see it, stories about this. City of Calhoun, forever chemicals. Remember, it's a forever chemical. It's not going away unless we make something happen. PFAS blood test results up in Rome, Georgia. They've been testing where participants' blood levels. Individuals have a blood level that is toxic, and the test revealed that they're above the levels, okay? And folks have got this, and it's dangerous. And you can see from that chart the blood level testing for 11 Rome participants, including the red line is what you do not want to be above. All right? This gentleman, you can see the level of PFAS that he has, right? It's not good. Forever Chemicals, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, a major lawsuit over PFAS contamination in northwest Georgia, reached a settlement, and you can see others along the way. And what are PFAS and Forever Chemicals, and why are they in Georgia's drinking water? Georgia had no plans for this, but thanks to reporters that have done a great job revealing this story. Emory came up with some money to pay for testing. So this is a fluid situation where folks are getting tested and finding out if they have issues, which is great. Rome is grappling with toxic forever chemicals fouling waterways, and this is something interesting, where Rome is concerned. So Rome is, a case had settled where 3M paid Rome over $75 million to help remediate because 3M knew they had a problem. They have paid waterways and systems in a national class involving an MDL in South Carolina over $10 billion. They've agreed to pay close to $12.5 billion. And in our world, I've never seen anybody agree to pay $10 to $12 billion that didn't do something. You know, you're going to do that, you did something, in my view. I will tell you also that as we're moving forward and kind of as we develop this, there's no stronger advocate for this than Aaron Brockovich. And Aaron, and I mentioned all the lawyers, but there's no stronger person in this, in our lineup of absolute all-stars. And I feel like we've got, you know, Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning on our team at the same time. I'm telling you, in our world as lawyers, I would match these lawyers up against any lawyers in America. But the person that really is the advocate, the consumer advocate among all of us is Aaron Brockovich. Aaron Brockovich wrote a book, which I just think is fantastic, and I'll show it to you. You should get it. The title of it is that Superman's Not Coming, right? But I also like what you put, our national water crisis, and I love this, and what we the people can do about it. Let that wash over you for a minute. What we the people can do about it, right? Because that's where it's going to come from. I think that, you know, I every year, and I'm going to do this in December, so Billy Mitchell from Dalton and DJ Jones from Columbus and Herschel Walker were all teammates on Georgia's 1980 national championship team. And DJ always has me speak in Columbus at a church honoring our top 50 high school football players. And Kirby Smart is one of the speakers, and I'm one of the speakers. The year before is Nick Saban. And I talk to the kids about NIL, and I tell them some inspirational things. But one of the things that I say, and one of the things that really struck me, and this is really about Aaron, which is people are measured in all these different ways, and all of us are, like when we're growing up and in life, you know, they measure. And I tell these kids, you know, they're measuring you with your ACT scores, IQs, SAT scores, and all those things. But let me just be clear with all of you that they have never designed a test, and they never will design a test that measures the heart of a man or a woman and how bad you want something and how hard you're willing to work to get it. Right? I'm telling you, when your motor runs like her motor runs, when she's up at 2 in the morning and 3 in the morning, and she's in Hinckley, California dealing with PG&E, and they got all the money in the world, and she's a single mom like my mom was a single mom who got up every day and went to work and provided, and she's got a family to take care of, and she would not quit. My mother had a bag. I've still got it at my house. My mother passed away in 2019. She was my hero. She had a bag that she used to carry around, and it said, "Be the person who refuses to quit." That kind of summed up my mom. It's in my DNA. It's how I was raised. We don't quit. We just keep coming. We just keep coming. And we're coming to help you. I'm going to turn everything over to Erin next. I can't say enough great things about her. She really doesn't need any introduction. About everybody I've talked to said I saw the movie, and she's great, and everybody loves her, myself included. And given our limited time, if you would all please join me in welcoming Aaron Brockovich. Thank you, young lady. Love you. You got to get your own, I think, and I keep your own. Just grab one.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Aaron Brockovich, not Julia Roberts. I know she's from Smyrna, Georgia, very nearby, but let's just get that out of the way real quick. Sometimes I just have to take a beat. I'm a person that feels things. That's how I work. That's how I operate. I'm very instinctual. I'm very connected to the land. This is something that's in my being that I know is in your being. I was born and raised in the Midwest, Lawrence, Kansas. And my father always taught me, an engineer, that the greatest gifts we have is our land to grow our food, our water, which is life source, our air, and the health and the welfare of our families. That's it. And I've never moved away from it. My connection has been to the earth, and he taught me about respecting the earth. And it has crushed me that over decades, we have created terrible destruction to the planet. We have disrespected our land, and in turn, is disrespectful to ourselves and to our neighbors. When I first arrived here today, I had a very swoony, weird feeling on 2 counts. I've been here before. I am a direct person. Some things that you'll hear are upsetting. They can make you angry. They can be frightening, upsetting. I get very upset. And as we go through tonight and you learn things, and I'm going to share things with you, I want you to remember one thing. I believe you. You are the very ones that are living, breathing, tilling the ground, drinking the water that is having the experience. And what frustrates me, and I think you've heard it before here and there, this idea to understand what's happening requires a certain skill set and PhDs and all of that. I've heard it my whole life. When I went out to Hinckley, you're not a doctor, you're not a lawyer, you're not a scientist, you're not this, you're not that. So what is it you do know, and why should we listen to you? None of us has to be any of that. To simply be a human and to see and feel and acknowledge that pollution can be dangerous. And for me, it was the moment. You'll never convince me that I have to be all of that to determine 2-headed frogs and green water is wrong. So remember that about yourselves. This isn't about me. This is about you. This is your story. And I found myself in Hinckley, and I found myself in every single one of these environmental issues. All of you, everybody, especially moms that get involved in these, that step up, that show up, are often told, you don't have this, you don't have that. You're being hysterical. That can't really be happening to your child. Yet they show up, they go to city council meetings, but they're constantly pushed back. And I watch them as they step away. I'm here tonight because I need you to lean into this. I want you to be informed. None of us can protect ourselves, our land, or our health if you don't know the truth. So all the information we're providing is for you to better understand what is happening in this community. And it makes me sad that I'm here because it's happening to you. You need to be your own best hero. And that is going to be my greatest work. We are going to be here to support you. There's an incredible team here. I have felt from the second I met Ben, a very kindred spirit about the connection to land, the environment, water, to health, and to welfare. The other team that is here supporting, we are all here together. Christian Archer, Bob Bocock, and Bob Bocock and I go back a very, very long way, are incredible. And I need you to know we can't do this without you. I need you to be strong. I need you to be courageous. I need you to stand your ground. Nobody knows better about what's happening in your community, in your family, in your water, in your land, and in your backyard other than you. You become the army that can make the change. And I'm here to remind you, I have seen it happen over and over and over again. When you show up, things change. I don't want you to think that there's any question about what's going on in this part of Georgia, in Calhoun, and in Dalton. You have a PFAS contamination, and it's a big one. Bob is going to share all of this with you. But I don't want you to make any mistake or have anyone tell you that this isn't going on. It's going on. And some of the testing has already revealed some of the highest PFAS levels we've seen to date. So this is about you. Can I ask the room, are you familiar or have you heard about this chemical in your neighborhoods? Yes, a show of hands, yes. Now, when things start happening in a big environmental case, I'm often the first person people email. I've already gotten quite a few emails. When I start getting 3, 5, 7 a day emails from a very specific pinpoint location, unbeknownst to the others that they're emailing me, I can see what they're saying and I can start recognizing patterns. Have you, and your observation over time is one of the best skills that we have. Over time, have you seen or observed changes in your animals? Show of hands. Okay, see, that's really critical. The animals tell us a lot, and the animals are impacted by PFAS as well. This one chemical, as Bob said 10 years ago, will be the largest emerging contaminant this country has ever seen. And you are not going to be alone on this. This one chemical and its land application has already destroyed the state of Maine. It's almost destroyed the state of Michigan. It is posed to do and wreak havoc here in Georgia. It has the potential to affect every single state in the nation. And I can't imagine what we're thinking when you take a toxic, hazardous waste substance and you spread it across the lands. It moves through the ground. It destroys the topsoils. It destroys the farmland. It gets into the water supply. That gets into the food chain. That's worst case scenario. And that has happened up in Maine, where the USDA failed to report by 15 months that the dairies and the cows had PFAS in the milk. They had to kill all the cows. You can no longer organically farm. The state has had to put water filtrations on every wellhead. You can't eat the eggs. It's in the chicken. It's in the eggs. And this is a very dangerous scenario that we're headed for, which is why it is all the more important. Each person in this community must stand up. We've seen them do it, Maine. And part of my job will be here to help organize, to work with this great support, this team that's going to have your back. But I need your voice. I need you to talk. And that's why I'm asking about, are you having problems with the animals? Have you noticed in your community children, yourselves, that have had more illnesses or disease or cancer? Can you please put up your hands? So I want you to look around the room because you're not alone. These observations are keen that will help us help you. I came to Hinckley very naive, and to give you a timeline, I was a 31-year-old single mom of 3. Today, I'm 64 years old and the grandmother of 4. And I have seen this pattern happen over and over and over again. We continue to ignore the problems. We continue to kick the can down the line, and we just can't go any further. If ever there is a moment I'm going to tell this community, you need to stand up and fight, it is going to be right now. So when I was in Hinckley, the things that I learned is what I want to share with you. And it is all about being a person, a human, having a connection, being present, having an instinct. They're amazingly keen, and they can provide you everything that you need to know. So people are always saying, what is a logical step that you need to take? Your logics are your instincts. It's a common sense set of skills. I've seen that when we apply that, we find out that we were right. It gives us validation. It helps us feel stronger and to continue to go forward. So your logic's your common sense. I mean, I learned this in Kansas. You know, when the skies turned dark and the birds stopped chirping and there was a green cast in the sky and the tornado sirens went off, I didn't need to call the Weather Channel to find out if it was an F4 or an F5. I knew I needed to do something. I knew I needed to get to safety. So use your instincts. Use your power of observation about what's going on and the changes that you are seeing. Take notes, start a journal, because I do this every single day. I may forget something. I do write it down. Leverage, I talk about that. People think it's a bad word, but what I've learned in these communities, in principle, in mathematics, 1 + 1 = 2, right? In mathematics. But in principle, I've learned in every community, 1 becomes 5, that becomes 20, that becomes 50, that becomes 200, 500, 1,000 or more. It is the collection of you and the community and your courage and your bravery and working together and knowing what's happening is happening and standing strong. It's a game changer. When I was running around out in Hinckley, I was the one person PG&E didn't care. Then I found another mother. Well, they're like 2 mothers. We don't really care. But things changed when we became 50 mothers and 150 community members and 250. All of a sudden, they're taking note. So part of my work is to be with you, to encourage you to take these steps and trust instincts. Talk to your neighbor, get involved, and show up to meetings. So we're no stranger to PFAS. 10 years ago, we were involved in Hoosick Falls, New York, PFAS contamination. The children were very sick, and we did blood samples on them, and it was 100 times a state standard. So we got involved very early on. We've been up in Maine for the past 2 years, and I think that there's some information up here about Maine and the situation that they're all in. And I shared a little bit with you earlier about Maine, but this team has got them mobilized. They've gotten information. They've gotten filtration systems. They've gotten organized, and they're beginning to deal with the disaster that they have. You can't eat the fish, you can't eat the deer. Same thing's happening in Michigan. So I know this feels super dire, and we're gonna dump a lot of difficult information on you, but I'm gonna keep coming back to you. Nothing will change or happen if we don't have you. And we have to dig deep. And as I said in the beginning, I'm going to say kind of as I start to close out, this is a moment where we're going to really have to dig deep and find our courage. And we have to find our heart. And we're going to have to find our strength to work together. Start getting information. Start getting mobilized so you can better protect your land and your health and your welfare. So it means everything to see all of you here tonight. I could stay and talk all night, but I won't, because I want Bob to get here. I will be around afterwards. I want to say I'm deeply sorry. I just cannot believe that we're in this situation again. But I want you to know, whether it's Hinckley, whether it was in Flint, whether it's been in Maine, whether it's been in the PB oil spill, every single disaster I've been involved, when we rise up, we can change things. We can make things better, and we will be stronger. And that is the greatest message I want to share with all of you tonight. You're the game changer. Superman's not coming. But that's never scared me because we're here. I don't know over time if we just got comfortable or complacent, but we have forgotten, and it reminds me of a Wizard of Oz story. If you know the moral at the end of the day, right? They were lost and they were on the yellow brick road. And the moral of the story was they had forgotten. They had a heart, they had a brain, and they had a courage to find their way through the problem. And that's exactly what I see will happen here. So again, I'll be around all evening. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry if just a whole hard facts, but it's the only way I can tell you. We have a problem. I'm glad you're here. We're going to stay with you to the end. And just again, thank you so much for showing up. You've taken the first steps to making the change in what's obviously going to be a very big issue for the community. So thank you very much.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I keep mine?
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Here the rest of the night. We're not going to leave until we answer everyone's questions because I mean, I know I could listen to Erin talk all night. I mean, I love her and I love her passion, obviously, and she's here to help. But our next speaker is Bob Bocock. Bob, when we put together our team, we identified the best and the brightest in the country, and that is Bob Bocock. Bob Bocock is so well respected by our government and is so well respected on a national level that he testified before Congress about PFAS. Okay, this isn't just some random guy who may know a little bit about water. He was the guy that they had come in and testify to our congressional branch of government, right, to our legislative branch to discuss this, and he's the guy whose opinion that they rely on heavily, okay? He's our expert. Again, when I say we got the best and brightest on our team, I cannot emphasize that enough when it comes to Bob Bocock. But to keep us on track, without further ado, if you will all please welcome Bob Bocock. You got it? Thank you, Bob.
Breathe. There we go. They had to do it back there. Okay, I'm going to get us back on schedule because I know you got a whole lot of questions about specifically what's going on here and how it impacts you. So a little bit about me so that you kind of get a little bit of understanding as to why I'm here and what I'm doing. You've heard him, talk all this highfalutin malarkey, but I graduated college. President Reagan inspired me to join the Army. I built water and wastewater treatment facilities over in Thailand when the Cambodian refugees were coming over. Did that for a number of years, came over, worked for the largest water treatment plant in Los Angeles, California. In 1990, I was appointed to Superior Court as a water master by a judge there. So I've been doing that for over 35 years. The judge introduced Aaron and I. The rest is history. I was the state attorney general's expert in the Flint, Michigan case. I've been in virtually every state on water and wastewater related issues. PFAS, what are we talking about here? Poly and perfluorinated substances. As Aaron kind of alluded, we've been talking about this for over 10 years. They keep changing the name on us. When I got involved in it originally, it was called C8 because it had a carbon 8 chain. They moved that on to PFCs, perfluorinated compounds. We're talking about over 10,000 chemicals that are in commerce. Ladies, it's in your nail polish. It's why it glides on the way that it does. It's in contact lenses. It's in paint. It's in the cardboard boxes they put pizzas in so that it doesn't soak through. It's in the McDonald's wrap around your cheeseburger. Now, they've changed the formula, but it's still the basic family of chemicals. It's fluorinated carbon molecules. The ones that they made for Teflon and Scotchgard and Stainmaster are so strong you cannot break them down. When you go and have to actually destroy the water coming out of a wastewater treatment plant, 374 degrees centigrade, not Fahrenheit. That's hot. That's a lot of energy. It's man-made. They don't occur naturally. It's been used since the 40s. It was critical in the Manhattan Project, the big bomb for World War II. It can be, branched and unbranched. You'll hear people talk about short chain and long chain. So we're most concerned, PFOA and PFOS, they're the newly regulated compounds. They're an 8 chain. There's PFBS, which is a signature chemical for Stainmaster. You know where that comes from. That's a 3M chemical as well. It comes along as Scotchgard. That's a C6 compound. That's some of the new stuff we're starting to see out there. You might have heard up on the Cape Fear River in North Carolina, Gen X. So they're coming up with new compounds all the time. There are actually over 10,000 named chemical compounds in this family. Here's the evidence that, you know, the world has been talking about these chemicals. This is what we found in concentrations in the environment back in 1972. So anybody that wants to BS you that this is just new unfunded federal mandates coming down upon you, we've been playing this game since before 1972 in the ecological and toxicological damage that's been going on. How are people exposed to PFAS? It's widespread. These man-made chemicals have leached into our soil, air, water, and people are most likely to be exposed to these chemicals by consuming PFAS-contaminated water or food. You heard Aaron talk about the milk, okay, in Maine. Same thing happened in Clovis, New Mexico. What was happening is these chemicals follow the protein chain. They don't follow the carbohydrate chain. So you don't find them in potatoes or carrots, but you find them in alfalfa, something really green and leafy. And the cows eat the alfalfa, follows the protein chain, goes right into the milk. Pregnant mothers, nursing mothers, you're passing it on. Those babies are created PFAS-free. They raise to your level internally that you've been accumulating for 8.5 years in your body. And if you nurse, you're passing it directly across. It was at 400 parts in the milk on the shelves in Maine. Okay? The drinking water regulation is 4 grains of sand in that bathtub. I'm going through this very, very quickly because I want you to have time to answer questions. But you guys have packets that you picked up, and there's a slide in there that looks just like this. And this is the most important to you. As we go around the country, chemicals get dumped into pits behind factories. They find their way to a community's drinking water well, and the rest is history. You have a very unique situation here that I'm going to explain to you that makes this unique and specific. What's happened in Northwest Georgia is unique and specific. So 3M makes these chemicals. They go to local manufacturers. We all know how that occurs. They are as much of a victim of 3M as you. Those chemicals made their way into the waste stream. They go over here to the wastewater treatment plant. The wastewater treatment plant sends those chemicals back to the rivers that the water comes from. So as you go down the river, the concentrations increase because what's being discharged to the river, becomes somebody's downstream's drinking water. And then they put their wastewater in and it concentrates and goes up, all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico and Mobile, Alabama. Here's what's unique and specific to your area. The biosolids, okay? Wastewater treatment plants have solids. We all know what those solids are. They go to the bottom of the treatment plant. They get dewatered. When they're dewatered, they're put in either windrows. I've looked at wastewater treatment plants all over Northwest Georgia, and you'll find windrows out there. Sometimes they get picked up by companies. They get put into bags, and they get sent to Home Depot, and you guys go buy it for $5 a bag, okay? Or Cousin Joe got a truckload of this fertilizer from the city, and they were giving it away. I want some too, and you got it dumped on your property, and your neighbor got it dumped on their property, and it's over there. What makes this unique and kind of difficult, Georgia didn't keep records. So there's not a lot of records of where it's at. There's a very concentrated site in Dalton that some of you might be aware of and some of you might not be aware of. But it's where people used to go and hunt and fish and kind of tool around with their trucks and things. You know what site I'm talking about. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't eat a deer out of there. In Maine, they actually give you a deer tag. You don't get to take that thing to the butcher shop and make your sausage. You take it in for a necropsy because they want to know the PFAS levels in that deer. You will be issued in Georgia, in Northwest Georgia, do not eat the fish and do not eat the deer. Those days are coming. And I'll tell you something else about Georgia that they did last month and what's going on at the federal level and what's going on at the state level. And what I'm telling you is happening so fast, it's mind-blowing. I used to give presentations on other chemicals historically, and I used to say, if you had a baby today, by the time that kid graduated college, I'd still be working on the maximum contaminant level for that particular chemical. They're doing it so fast now
that it's been at light speed, and the states are picking up. Georgia issued a directive in August 2024. That was last month. And I'm going to explain that to you, but this is about these biosolids that get dumped on sod farms, alfalfa farms, your farms. It's all over this area. Goes onto the land, ends up in residential areas. People ask me, how's it ended up in a residential area? I've been to sites all over. I've hiked your rivers, I've fallen in them, I've fallen down the banks, I've tested all over this place for the last 6 months. And let me tell you what I've found. Levels as high as 800 in your larger rivers. 800. The drinking water standard is 4. Okay? And that means you're like thousands of times greater when you get to it. I've been to properties in this area over 4,000 parts, okay, in their property ponds. Okay? It's coming out of springs. It's coming through creeks. If you have a creek-fed pond on your property, it's likely contaminated. If your neighbor has one. If your neighbor's a sod farm or an alfalfa farm or some guy that's doing corn occasionally, he pumps out of the river to irrigate, think of it as salt you're throwing on the dirt. Okay? You don't even have to have the biosolids, and it accumulates in the dirt. Fall comes and they disc it. Becomes airborne. Shows up on your property. It rains on your property and goes into the storm drain. If it's over 4 parts per trillion at the property line, that's going to be your violation in 2029. State of Georgia law, not U.S. federal law. Oops. Can't go backwards. I don't know what that was. Anyway, why is PFAS subject to regulation? Here's the part most of you are very concerned about. I met with the EPA administrator, and I said, why are you moving so fast? I said, when we do these toxicological testings, everything causes cancer. We all know that. Everything causes cancer. You take 20 years on every other regulation that causes cancer. Why are you moving so fast? Everything causes endocrine disruption, mutations in your endocrine system, your sexual organs, those are impacted by these chemicals. Everything causes that. Why are you moving so fast? This was the answer that he gave me. If you have a baby, what do we do at the 3rd month? We send him in for the MMR, measles, mumps, or rubella. They're finding that because the PFAS levels in that infant are so high that there is a lack in immunological response, meaning that the shot that's supposed to cause an immune reaction is less effective because in effect, we've scotch-guarded their blood. There's a study that came out 6 weeks ago. It's not even on this list because it's so new. It's getting in the baby's digestive tract and curbing off their ability to absorb nutrients, okay? When you spill a glass of wine on a white carpet, you're pretty excited about the fact you can go over and wipe it up. Imagine doing that to your children's stomach lining. They're not getting the nutrients through that crap. So it does cause hypercholesterol. They're finding out, back to that endocrine system, it's actually tricking the body into making that cholesterol. So many of us have seen those commercials. Is it the Frankfurter or Uncle Frank? Well, it might be PFAS. Does cause liver damage, the liver enzymes. It does cause thyroid function issues, endocrine disruption, reproductive toxicology, testicular cancers off the charts with this stuff. It does cause development of toxicity and decreased birth weight. These are all real things that are causing the government to respond so rapidly to regulation. I didn't even get into, I'm trying to rapidly fire this at you, and a lot of it will come out in questions. PFOA, PFOS under CERCLA, 2 months ago, hazardous waste now. Meaning even if you took your dirt and said, I'm going to take it to the dump, you can't take it to a regular dump in Northwest Georgia. It's got to go to hazardous waste landfill now. Bioaccumulation. This is an important concept, and another reason why they're moving so fast. If you went out and somebody spilled gasoline in your well, and you drank some BTEX, benzene, ethylene, toluene, xylene, you drank some gas in your water, your body would divest itself of it. You'd waste it out, okay? It'd go into your liver would do your jobs, and you'd get rid of the chemicals, okay? With PFAS, they actually bioaccumulate. So today I consumed one, tomorrow I consume one, now I have two in my body for 8.5 years, 3, 4, 5, 6. It accumulates in your body. It's accumulating in our food chain. The little minnows in the creek get eaten by the bigger fish, they get eaten by the bigger fish. By the time it gets in the big fish, not only are they consuming it themselves in the water that they're swimming in, but their food source has it. So it's just a compounding factor. And then God forbid we go home and we eat that fish. That's about bioaccumulation. On April 19, 2024, the US EPA announced that it was designating two types of PFAS, PFOA and PFOS, as hazardous substances. I cannot overemphasize the meaning of that. Okay? That goes to the Clean Water Act, that goes to the Safe Drinking Water Act, that goes to RCRA, CERCLA, all of the legislation in this country, and Georgia specific. It's important to understand. You don't unring that bell. All these things that are going through the Supreme Court now, once something's designated hazardous waste, it is forevermore. Ban on biosolids. The US EPA has not established a numerical limit for monitoring or reporting for PFAS. In 2021, the roadmap, and 2023, the roadmap through the EPA administration. By winter of 2024, that's how many weeks away? Okay, we're gonna get some numbers out. I will tell you, there are cases right now by the retired EPA employees and the retired state administrators who are suing EPA for not getting that number out fast enough. It's coming, winter of 2024. So what I'm trying to express to you is whether you like it or not, whether you feel directly impacted or not, saying, oh, I don't drink the water, I buy bottled water, you know, I don't eat the vegetables around here. If you've got contaminated land, now has hazardous waste on it, think about the meaning of that. And furthermore, if you've got any biosolids on it, whether it came from you or a neighbor, you got a real problem. August 1st, 2024, I jumped my gun here on my own slide. Must not exceed the maximum contaminant levels for drinking water in accordance with the chapters and whatever. What that means is if the water leaving your property, going back into a creek, onto a road, onto your neighbor's property, exceeds 4 parts per trillion, the drinking water standard, tag, you're it. Okay, meaning you're subject to a fine. All the cities and counties in the United States are subject to the Clean Water Act and actually have to monitor stormwater discharges. They looked at, things historically as there's too much sediment in it going back to the river. You've probably heard those claims before. Now they're going to actually be measuring for PFAS at property line. EPA didn't write this. EPA said they're coming out with their number in the winter of 2024. The state of Georgia issued this August 1st, 2024. They're ahead of the feds. Anyway, with that, I will bring Ben back up. I know I blew through that, but I want to be very, very specific about what's going on in your area. I want to make sure everybody understands that slide right there, because that's what makes you unique. They've spread this stuff all over this region, and it's going to take decades to clean it up. Ben.
Thank you, Bob. You can tell Bob, knows more about PFAS than anybody in the country. So what I want to share with you next are admissions, if you will, with PFAS settlements. Like we said, no company pays $10 billion, $12 billion that didn't do something, right? So this is something I think that drives this point home. So this was a case filed in South Carolina in federal court against 3M. By all these cities. This was filed in 2018. They consolidated these cases in federal court. 3M agreed to pay $12.5 billion settlement related to this, and this article was April 1st of 2024. So it gives you kind of an indication of what we're dealing with. And there's the actual lawsuit. And you can see this paragraph 4, number 1, settlement amount. 3M has agreed to pay an amount not less than $10,500,000 and not $500,000 and not more than $12,500,000, okay? So that's 3M related to this type of claim. Now, Rome will receive $75 million. They're going to pay the city of Rome for this, right? Because of Rome advancing a claim against 3M. City of Rome, again, in PFAS pollution settlement, 3M company will pay the city of Rome $75 million. And so it begs the question here, who has a claim and who all are claimants outside of cities and municipalities? Well, claimants include any landowner in this room or any landowner in Northwest Georgia that has 1 acre of land or more would have a claim because your property has been damaged and there's a devaluation, there's a diminished value associated with the property, and there needs to be, this needs to be cleaned up. So another would be a business owner. You know, I mentioned that if you have a business and you're an organic farmer and you've lost their organic designation, if you're a poultry producer and you've been affected in some way with regard to this, there are measurable damages that would flow from that. But you could have almost any business that would be impacted in some way related to the contamination. Others would be farmers. And we've got a lot of farmers that with biosolids have been put out across their properties. Recreational land uses and individuals. And individuals here, I can tell you, have claims. Each of you potentially would have a claim. And I'll share with you not anyone's specific information, but I'll share with you some things that have been revealed from the cards and the information and the questions that you all have asked of us while you've been here. So these are the individuals. The claims will be based on violations of Georgia law, which we're very familiar with. I've been practicing here for 33 years, and under Georgia law, our standards of negligence, negligence per se, the Georgia Water Quality Act, product liability and failure to warn theories would be attached, as well as trespass and nuisance. If you trespass on somebody's property and you put PFAS on it in the ways that they have and it creates a nuisance, or it's a trespass, that is a claim under Georgia law. Abatement and injunctive relief, remediation, and the property value are part of the damages. Now, one of the things that is disturbing is that we have seen a connection related to a number of cancers that people have received. And so cancers, fertility problems, birth defects, and fear of injury in the future. And I will share with you here that a number of you all have shared with us that there is a predominance of liver cancer. There are a number of folks that have liver cancer or have a family member or friend or a loved one that may have that. And there are other cancers that we've seen. Cervical cancers, we've seen testicular cancers, we've seen issues related to renal failure. And there is evidence that there is a causal connection between PFAS as a contaminant and that. We've seen birth defects. We've seen issues where fertility clinics that have made it clear that there were problems related to that. There are studies that show by 2050, a third of men in the United States may be sterile. Think about that for a minute, right? The Bible says go out and multiply, right? A third of the men in the country in 2050, based on some predictions, could be sterile if we don't do something related to PFAS. Now, I look at this, that's 26 years from now, some people say. I got my 40-year high school reunion, as I told y'all, coming up next month. And if you think about a buddy of mine, we graduated from high school in 1984, talking about, that's 40 years ago. He goes, 40 years before that was 1944, and they were fighting World War II. That's how fast it goes. That's how fast it goes. And I don't know how much runway any of us have left, but we've got to do something now to correct that. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to join the fight. We're going to join the fight, and we're going to band together, and it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. If you go to your packet, if you all have a packet on you, you'll have it in front of you. All right, take that out if you will. Okay, open it up. And you'll go to the section, look to the right if you will. Let me get Let me just show you to the right. You'll see the Finley firm. Look for our logo on a piece of paper. Look for that in the back. Yes, sir, right there. You got it. Right there. Right there. Finley firm. See that right there? And you see these others. All right. What this does is this, if you would like to, this would allow you to authorize us to test your water, test your land, test whatever you would like to do. And this is just an attorney fee contract. And you would just sign this and return it to us whenever you're comfortable with it. And if you don't want to, it's completely fine. But it's as simple and easy as 1, 2, 3. You'll see all you got to do is sign up or click to get started. We'll schedule a time to come test your water. We do this at no charge. We do this and we'll provide you with the results within a couple of weeks. So it's at no cost to anyone. And we will provide you with the results for free. So if you want us to do it, we're happy to do it. Obviously at no cost, and we'll do that for you. And we'll bring and provide you with the results, of that testing. So again, it's very, very easy. It's very simple. It doesn't cost anything. There's no risk. And in my view, if your property is fine, your water's fine, and your tests come back negative, that would be phenomenal. That's wonderful. And you got peace of mind to know that there's no issue with that, with respect to you, your house, your business, whatever it may be. If it's contaminated, then there's some things that we can talk about that can help with remediation, with purification issues, and other things we can do to help, and advice we can provide. But you have peace of mind. But I think, as I said before, really it's about education. It's about letting people know, and it's an understanding of the issue. And we think that it's fair, and it's right, and it's just for people to understand and to know and be aware if there's a problem or not. So that's obviously here. It's about awareness at town hall meetings like this. And I encourage you, when you leave here today, to go out and tell your friends and your neighbors and everybody you know about the seriousness of this, and there are folks that want to help. We've got questions and answers. Y'all have been filling out questions. We're gonna answer those, and then we're gonna hit a few, and then after that, we will be here, and Aaron will be here, and we will not leave until the last person leaves. So if you want to come talk to me, you want to talk to Aaron, you want to talk to Bob, any of our people, and remember our people are around the room if you want to schedule an appointment with us. If you'd like to come to our office, come see us at 517 Benjamin Way here, in Dalton, not here in Chatsworth, but our office is in Dalton, and come by and set up an appointment or come see us anytime, and we'll help and we'll answer any questions that you may have. With that being said, I'm going to turn over to Nick right now, because I think you've got the questions, don't you? You want to try this one?
Yeah, well, there we go. I don't know if you guys want to hear my voice anymore. You probably don't. This Alabama accent's probably wearing thin. But guys, I just want to thank you so much for being here tonight. The response has been incredible. I know it's a tough thing to even discuss, right? Lawsuits are scary. Lawsuits aren't fun. No one wants to do that, right? But sometimes they're needed. When you're backed into a corner, sometimes you got to fight your way out, okay? I cannot thank you enough for these questions. I have over 100 in my hand. We have hundreds more on Instagram and Facebook, but I'm going to ask 3 quick questions, really quick, of Aaron, Bob, and Ben. And then what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to break out so that each and every one of you can meet directly with them, and you can ask your questions directly to them. So the first question is, how do you get our drinking water, which is city water, tested?
Let's get Bob up here for that. We need Bob to answer that.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
Come on, Bob.
Okay. I think I made him C in high school biology. I don't think I can answer.
Here we go. Okay, I heard the question coming in. Will we test city water? We actually, when we meet with you, we can tell you what city water is. It's different seasonally, and it's different community by community. What I mean by that is when I gave my explanation. So I'm going to answer the question for you. The good news is most of the treatment plants, if not all, in the area are currently testing treatment methods to employ the best treatment technology for that water quality. I know Chatsworth's doing it. I know Dalton's made some changes that have taken a lot of the PFAS out. Calhoun's working on it. Rome just approved their location for their treatment plant 10 days ago. So it's happening. Pardon? Rome did it 10 days ago. I ain't gonna get into local politics, but I'll tell you the politicians were fighting over where. You know about that? It's been in the papers, okay? They made the right decision and it's getting built. And it was 10 days ago because I got the call. So I am very concerned with your local community drinking water. They're getting it under control. You do have it. We know where it's at. I don't want to go into seasonally it's getting better. And hopefully by next year it should be all gone in the community drinking water systems. But you do have community drinking water systems in this area within 20 miles that is over 100 parts.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. This next question is for Aaron. Aaron, this question says, are springs, wells, and ponds as effective as rivers?
Yes, Bob's a better source. I can answer it, but it is in the springs and the rivers and the ponds, and we're seeing that everywhere. I don't know that I should even bring it up, but yeah, okay. Answer is yes. I'll make it simple.
Bob's not going to make it.
I'm going to answer it real quick. Forever chemicals accumulate. Think of it, if you're just running a sprinkler and you're pumping out of a river or a creek, it's like salt on the ground. So where is it going to be the worst? In your ponds. Unless that pond gets scoured and drained regularly, it accumulates. I have tested a pond within 10 miles of here that's over 4,000 parts. Ponds are the permanent sink for forever. The creeks will run seasonally. Rivers run seasonally. Okay? When the river's down, the groundwater goes into the river and the river rises a little bit. When the river's running, the groundwater gets replenished. So it's a living system, and that's why I say it changes seasonally. But I will tell you, based on the volume in the Conasauga River, finding 800 parts with that volume flowing in the spring scares me, and I do this all over the world. Next.
Great. Thank you so much, Bob. So answer is yes. Streams, wells, ponds, we're looking into all of those, so please contact our office. We'll be happy to come out and test that well and completely free of charge, which leads me into the next question for this one's for Ben. And then, like I said, we're going to break out into groups so that you can all ask questions of these three world-class experts directly. But Ben, how much does this cost?
I mean, it doesn't cost anyone in here anything. It is, we will do the testing. If you authorize us to do it, we can't just go to your property and test it without your authorization. But if you choose to advance a claim in any respect, we would handle the matter on a contingency fee basis, meaning that we don't charge you, we don't bill you, you don't get a bill from us. If there's no recovery, we don't get paid. Our fee is contingent upon a recovery. So there's never a situation where you'll write a check or it'll have to come out of pocket for anything. We'll front all the expert fees and we'll retain Bob and we'll advance that claim on your behalf if you choose to retain us and we choose to accept the case, obviously. But I don't want people to find there to be any financial impediment to this and to not be in any way discouraged by it, because we're here to help in that way, in any way that we can.
Great, thank you, Ben. And one thing, guys, really quick, our water testers wear the deer hunting orange shirts. So all you guys, if you see them on your land, please don't shoot them, right? I'm a deer hunter, so I appreciate that. But thank you all so much to Ben, Aaron, and Bob. They did a great job. We're going to be here until every single question is asked. So I cannot thank you again enough. Guys, we're going to go ahead and dismiss at this time and break out into groups. Thank you.
Yeah, and our people are around for all of you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. Just come on up and talk to us or talk to our people. We're all around here. But again, thank you for being here.